and we're off. Zic has started, and fairly soon we'll see Rubydragon's stream starting as well, so I'll be jumping through the prologue here. The dash that you probably know this game for is not unlocked until the end of the prologue, so you just have to keep jumping because that's faster in this chapter. And it looks like both of them are through the prologue deathless, so very nice. Zic and Rubydragon gonna be heading on to Forsaken City here, where you're gonna see a lot of movement tech. So this game has a lot of movement tech, but you don't see all of it in every chapter. But this one, for being the first chapter and also being the short chapter besides obviously the prologue, still has a surprising amount of tech. So you're going to see here things like you see more common things, like you see some... I'm forgetting my words here. You're seeing some hyper dashes and wall bounces are some of the most common things. Hyper dashes are basically the fastest way to move forward, and wall bounces are one of the fastest ways to move upwards, and those are two directions you want to go most of the time. You're also seeing less common stuff like wave dashes and extended dashes, which are two different types of dashes you can do to kind of where you see a wave dash, you kind of go on the air and back in the ground, and the extended dash, you just stay on the ground for long enough to where you... And both of them, the aim of it is to get your dash back so that, you know, you can do cool stuff with dashes, and it looks cool. Even less common stuff like dash jumps are showing off at this chapter, as well as neutral jumps, which you're going to see at the end here to scale this wall without having to use up your whole stamina. And Rubydragon's going to be doing that to finish up Chapter 1 Forsaken City here, as Zic3 is now approaching that screen. Messes up a little bit on the neutrals. There we go, finishes Chapter 1. Kind of rough ending, but besides that, it was a rather nice chapter. The two now heading on to Old Site. So Old Site is going to introduce new mechanics. Each chapter of Celeste has new mechanics, so the zippers in the last chapter, you might not have seen too much, but this one is Dream Blocks. And when you unlock Dream Blocks, you do a glitch where you restart the cutscene in the air, and because of that, you kind of... The game keeps your height while moving your horizontal position, and you will be put inside the Dream Block, which a Dream Block, you dash through it, and you keep, when you dash into it, you keep dashing through it in that direction until you're out the other side, and those can be useful when you're being chased by Battlein here. So Battlein will copy your exact movement 3 seconds behind you, so in order to kind of prevent her from hitting you, you want to move as fast as you can. It can get tricky, especially coming up on these later parts of the chase section, because you will have to do some backtracking while hitting some keys to open some doors. But hopefully that still won't be too much of a problem, as we'll be moving as quickly as possible through this section to finish it up before Madeline can cause any harm. We see Zic3 unfortunately having a death there as Rubydragon makes it out of the chase and now just has to go through this section to make it to Awake, where there are no more Dream Blocks and you just kind of have to get back. There's this little building here, and you're going to have to get back here while there's no Dream Blocks and basically no way for you to die. Meanwhile, Zic3, in those last couple screens of the Battlein chase, well, Rubydragon's going to be trying to move through here. This part is super technical because since there's no, like, way to speed you. There's no mechanics or there's no like kind of things, obstacles is what the word I'm looking for. Since there's no obstacles, it's just straight up trying to use the mechanics of the game to move you as quickly as you can until you move on to the next chapter, which is Celestial Resort. In this chapter, these dust bunnies are going to be moving on cycles that you need to watch out for. So you need to kind of plan around the cycles to know what's the best route to take. Also, if you die, they're gonna be on different cycles than when you enter the screen, so you are going to have to adapt to new cycles if you die. And it looks like Zic3 is now done, with Old Sight going to be joining Rubydragon in Celestial Resort. So, both of them doing pretty good so far through the chapter. Zic3 now just entering the hotel. And you see there, as I mentioned, they're on different cycles when you die. So you will sometimes see if somebody dies on a screen, they'll actually leave and re-enter the screen just to get that original cycle that they might just be more comfortable with. Zic finally making it through that first screen of the hotel. And the Rubydragon heading into the huge mess section where you have to go through 3 branching paths, and each button at the end of each branching path will clean up one part of the mess here. And, okay. There we go. It was very strange. But we're going to be going down here. This path is the first one we take because at the end of each section, you will have to re-talk to Ashiro, and Ashiro is in different places depending on how many paths are completed, so we just try and get as close to Ashiro as possible. So you're going to see we're going to just hit this button, the end way is going to be revealed, and then he's going to be just right to our left. Meanwhile, Zic3 getting the key that will eventually lead into the huge mess section here, so making good progress as well through this chapter. While Rubydragon onto the second path. Alright. And you see Yashiro's right there, so that's why we want to go there second. And lastly, we have this path with the towels, as Zic3 is in the path with the boxes, so still in the first path of the 3. About to be hitting where the spike jump is, the spike jump being a very tricky jump where you have to get a very specific wall jump. Since you're moving away from the spikes, their hitbox does not exist and they will not hit you, so you don't have to worry about taking damage as you get a fairly specific wall jump off of that wall and get to the top of the screen a bit faster than intended. Rubydragon grabbing the key at the middle of the huge mess and moving on to the elevator shaft. Moving very smoothly through this chapter right now. This is a very difficult chapter. It's the chapter where the difficulty picks up from the first 2, so it's where a lot of newer runners will probably lose a lot more time compared to the beginning chapters. Zic3, though, still doing fine, moving through the huge mess here. And Rubydragon about to get to this screen, which is lots of fun, except not really at all. Alright, here goes nothing. And there we go, moves very cleanly to get that key. Doing an intentional retry there, because the keys stay with you when you die, and it's faster to get back to the beginning of the screen by retrying, so you just kind of retry. There's one other point in the run where you do that, so your death count at the end of the game will have 2 intended deaths in them because of the retries. But with that, Rubydragon is going to be moving on to the Ashiro section, where Ashiro will be tracking your height in order to charge at you across the screen. Will give off a warning when he is about to strike by the lightning bolt that comes out. Also does move in intervals, so it's the same amount of time between each strike before he strikes again. And if you jump on his head, you can get your dash and stamina back, which can be good if you're in a tight spot. Or just trying to knock him out for a quick second. Although that can be kind of hard to do when you're already moving as quickly as Rubydragon is through the section. That looked like intentional retry. Maybe he wants to do the death cycle. There are some screens where somebody might be more familiar with the death cycle, so they might intentionally retry at the beginning of the screen. And based on the way Ruby just flew through the screen, I'm guessing that they must practice that death cycle. Finishing up the chapter very nicely with a time of, I think it's a 5:26 chapter, which is really good. As Zic3 is headed into the last room before the Ashiro section. So, getting pretty close to being at the end of the chapter, but Ruby's already entering Golden Ridge. Golden Ridge has a few new mechanics. We're going to have the bouncy clouds, which are like trampolines. We're going to have these green bubbles, which are like basically extra dashes. There's a little bit of a pause before they dash, but if you hit your dash button, they can just go early. And also, when they pop at the end of the dash, you will have your dash back, which just allows for some crazy mid-air-based movement throughout the entirety of this chapter. And then the last thing you see here is the wind, which you're going to see soon, next screen, which kind of pushes you in whatever direction it's blowing, so you'll have to move slower when moving in that direction. There's pink clouds, which disappear for a little bit after you bounce on them. But other than that, that's all the stuff that happens in Chapter 4, really. It's just a lot of tight screens in Chapter 4. It's a very technical chapter, and it's especially for such a short one. Like, this one is quite a bit shorter than the previous Resort chapter that Zic3 is just now finishing up. Getting a lot of wall bounces, and Zic dying right at the end of the screen. There are very few screens that have checkpoints mid-screen. So in almost every case, except for like a select few screens, the checkpoint for S screen is going to be at the beginning of it. So if you die, you have to do a whole screen over, and that's terrible in longer screens. And that last screen of the Ashiro section is super long, so it's just unfortunate that happened, but going to be finally moving on to Golden Ridge, as Rubydragon is already flying through it. Very nice, getting a wave dash off of that small area there to get to the end of the room, and accidentally hitting the spikes while climbing that twice. Yep, knowing to wait it out that time to not get destroyed by the spikes, because that's not a good thing to do in this game. For some reason, that screen is one of the ones with a checkpoint mid-screen, even though it's not even that long of a screen. I don't understand why, but that's an example of one of them right there, if you die like halfway through it. And Rubydragon nearing the beginning of the final section of the level. Meanwhile, Zic still close to the beginning of it. And, okay. Going for a skip here. You can skip one of the wind cycles by doing your movements quick enough to do that and getting that bubble early. Very nice. And now in the cliff face where the winds are super harsh to the point where you basically have to be dashing in order to move forward at all. However, since we're basically hyper dashing and wave dashing and extended dashing all the time, that actually is not too major a thing for us. Really, what's more scary than anything about the cliff face section here is the snowballs that you just saw Rubydragon get hit by. These snowballs will, like Ashiro, track your height in order to do a horizontal charge at you, except these have a few differences. They move slower, however, they don't have a warning when they come out. The interval between when a snowball comes is shorter than a Shiro charge, and also they come from the right side of the screen instead of the left. So overall, they're more dangerous, but they only last for like one screen in this level, and it's very close to the end, as you see Rubydragon now finishing up Chapter 4. Gonna be heading on to the Golden Ridge. Or, no, Warren just finished the Golden Ridge. We're gonna be heading on to the Mirror Temple next for Rubydragon. As Zic3 making good progress through Golden Ridge right now. Rubydragon's gonna be introduced to some dash blocks, where you dash and they move along a track rather quickly, so you can use them to get some pretty good momentum. And then the red bubbles, which are kind of like the green ones, except you can dash out of them because they will keep going until you hit a wall or some sort of hazard. And this is actually a very interesting chapter because it's some of the bigger skips. A lot of the skips you'll see are literally just for one screen, but here you have skips that saves multiple screens. Like the way you saw Rubydragon get that key there to unlock this door, skipped like 2 screens where you have to go to the left to find a red bubble to fly through those spikes. And there's an even bigger skip later that is like the only basically major skip that saves like well over a minute. Oh, Rubydragon going for a unique strat there. What you're intended to do in that room is dash and then wait for the dash block to move back so you can go in a hidden area and then dash again to get behind the dash block. There are several methods to get behind the dash block without having to wait as long. And getting crushed is a very specific thing to do there. But gonna keep moving on. Got what is going where they need to go to get through. Meanwhile, Zic is making pretty good progress through the cliff face section here. And Ruby's having a little bit of problems on this screen and jumping into spikes. They're pretty enticing. Yep, being extra careful with that spike there. There we go. And Zic onto the final 3 screens of Golden Ridge here. And now in the mirror. The mirror is interesting here. So what's going to happen is you're going to be playing as this weird thing. This weird thing is a Seeker. And you're going to be moving through it, and you're going to see it does many things. It can dash, it can't go through these weird soul walls, but it can break these red walls, and it can kill Madeline. And you're going to see as Zic3 finishes up Golden Ridge and goes to enter the Mirror Temple. You're going to see for these little Seeker guys, that was actually a very important learning moment, because right after this screen right here, ooh, Rubydragon messing up a really difficult strat here, but it's really cool looking if you get it. You're going to be having the Seekers now as an enemy, and the Seekers are going to be doing everything that they were able to do in that little mirror sequence, except with a few extra perks. You can jump on them, and they'll respawn with a little explosion a few seconds later, which you can use to actually boost yourself and increase the radius that is used to break the red blocks. But with charging into things, the Seeker can not only break red blocks, but can also hit these coins that you need to hit to open the door. So, since the Seekers track your position both horizontally and vertically, you can manipulate them actually into hitting some of the coins and stuff for you, so that you can get through the section faster by not having to move out of your way. You can just have the Seeker do what you want it to do. And, geez, a bit of a struggle here, but making good progress through the room as Zic3 is just cruising through the Mirror Temple right now. Looks like neither of them went for double bubble skip, which is very understandable because it is a super challenging skip. But Rubydragon heading up to search skip, which is not as challenging of a skip, but also way more major of a skip. So in this checkpoint, you're supposed to get 2 keys that you might see in the floor right here to unlock these 2 blocks so that you can ride a red bubble over the spikes and get to where Rubydragon just decided to get to early with a reverse extended hyper, and a well-timed jump. So, yeah, that saves a lot of time. It's definitely the most important thing to learn once you get around to Mirror Temple, but Mirror Temple does have a lot of stuff, so that, along with some other things, makes it one of the cooler looking chapters, one of those other things being Theo. So, it looks like Zic3 is doing pretty good, getting through the mirror here, and Rubydragon has Theo, so fairly close together. A few minutes, like 2 minutes maybe, between the two, and Rubydragon doing good. I'm, for some reason, stalling on explaining what Theo does, so I'm going to get this over with. Theo, when you're holding him, makes you move slower, makes you unable to dash, and makes you not jump as high. So it's not good to be carrying him a lot of the time. However, you do need to bring him to the end of each screen in order to move on to the next screen, so you might as well carry him. However, what else you can do is you can also just kind of throw him and then hyper dash, and you can pick him up at any point, so you can pick him up mid hyper dash, and then when you're done picking him up, he'll actually maintain your momentum from the hyper dash, so you can move really quickly with Theo, despite the fact that his core design makes you move less quickly. So it kind of makes it an even more interesting section, as you have to manage still moving super fast while also managing Theo. If Theo falls into a pit, you die. However, Theo can go through spikes. Oh no! That's a very unfortunate death to have happen there. Throw Theo away from the door so the door closes and then get crushed by the door. Yeah, that's why you need to bring Theo to the end of each screen, because the door will not open until you have Theo in the door. And then for this last screen, you have these shockwaves that you need to dash against. You might see someone in the screen stall a little bit before the wave reaches them so that they can dash through it and not have the wave knock them back. And finishing the chapter as Zic3 here gets Search Skip. Very nicely done. First try Search Skip from both racers here is great. And Rubydragon. Going to be moving on to Reflection. So it looks like I think Rubydragon's been playing on keyboard, so you're not going to see it. But these feathers, you can actually move 360 degrees. They're omnidirectional analog control, stuff like that. And actually, if you're playing with an analog stick, it can be slightly faster to do these because you can turn them less of an angle, meaning they can move up more or whatever direction you need them to move more. But basically, they still just let you fly for a short amount of time. If you collect a feather while already having a feather, it can reset the timer. And actually, if there's a screen where you're intended to collect multiple feathers, that can be faster. Because if you don't have to collect another feather, if you collect a feather while already in feather mode, you don't have to watch the animation of Madeline going out of the feather. But that's not the animation that wastes time. It's collecting a feather animation that wastes a little bit of time. So you save time from not having to watch that. So as Rubydragon's making progress through this featherful chapter, we have Zic3 making his way through Theo. I also did not explain crush blocks and pinball bumpers are the other two mechanics here in Chapter 6. Crush blocks, if you dash into a crush block, it will start moving in the direction that you dashed it from. And then there's pinball bumpers coming up, which when you hit them, they will kind of bounce you backwards from wherever you just hit them. They will give you your stamina back as well, so you can kind of use them to your advantage in some situations. And also, if you hold away from them at a specific time once you hit them, you can get an extra big bumper boost. So they're pretty good for speed, but they can be pretty inconsistent because just like a slight change of angle and you might be bouncing in a different place you don't want to go. Meanwhile, so Rubydragon working through the cross paths here with all the mechanics. Meanwhile, Zic3 just about to finish up this chapter. Just has to get past the Seeker. Theo's already in the doorway, and Zic3 also makes it, so going to be moving through here. The end of the chapter, the last screen, just has to get through these little shockwaves here. Almost at the end, and alright, that's the chapter for Zic. Gonna be heading on to Reflection with Rubydragon, who is about to get to the chase point. So about halfway through this chapter, once you're kind of wandering around, not really knowing what to do, you'll eventually get tasked with having to chase down Battleon, who you might remember from Chapter 2. Chased you, but now you're on a quest to try and negotiate with Battleon. And so you have to follow her monstrous hair, because she kind of does some bad stuff at the beginning of this chapter in a cutscene that Zic is about to get to and skip. And I guess it hasn't happened to anybody, but I should explain this. If you see somebody accidentally retry at some point, the skip cutscene button, when you're in a cutscene, the skip cutscene button is where the retry button is when you're in gameplay. So if you think you're in a cutscene but you're actually in gameplay and you try and skip the cutscene, you'll actually retry and go back to the beginning of the screen, which can happen here with Battleon Boost. Rubydragon got it very nicely, where you use a bunny hop and a hyper dash to get a lot of momentum off that crush block, and it will move you very quickly into the fight against Battleon here, where you kind of have to go up to her and you have to go up to her and keep trying to... I don't necessarily think it's hitting her, but I don't really know what's happening. And basically, once you hit Battleon, and assume air quotes, basically, because, again, I'm not 100% sure. I don't think you're actually hitting her in this scenario. But once time you make contact with Battleon, you will get your dash back. So in order to use a lot of quicker movement, like hypers and extendeds and stuff, since those really only work on the ground and not in midair, after a hit, you'll see a player trying to go either, like, down right or down or right, or just try to dash immediately. Use the dash that you get back from making contact with Battleon in order to get to the ground faster, to do some sort of hyper dash, just to move as quickly as possible, because moving fast is pretty good, if you ask me. So, Ruby's doing really good on this fight so far. Zic going through the cross paths right now, making pretty good progress on Chapter 6 here. Only a few minutes behind Ruby here, so definitely still a pretty good race on both ends. Ruby taking first death here in Battleon section, so got pretty far without dying, which is really good. And already going to be hitting the remix. So about, I guess it's technically trying to be halfway, but I like to think of it about 2/3 of the way through this fight. You kind of get to the remix portion where the blocks will start moving up and down, or back and forth on their own in cycles, instead of just falling once and then not being affected at all. So another thing you're going to have to watch out for the end of this fight is the cycles of the platform. And just like the Dust Bunny cycles in Chapter 3, we kind of try to plan around these to go as fast as possible without them messing us up. So, and sometimes they're just straight up kind of, you have to ride on a moving platform. So, we know what we're doing here as we go through the section, and just want to reach the end of it as fast as possible, with Rubydragon about to be hitting the final screen of the fight against Battleon, as Zic uses some developer-intended shortcuts here. Gonna be going up here because there's actually a checkpoint up there that if you go straight for that shortcut, you'll skip the checkpoint, and you don't want to do that. But getting the skip first try anyway, so very nicely done. Just about very close to entering the fight with Battleon here, as Zic3 is going to be... Or no, other way around. Zic3, just one screen away from entering the fight with Battleon, as Rubydragon is now done with the fight against Battleon. Has leveled up by teaming up with Battleon, and now has pink hair, which means you have 2 dashes in midair. For those who don't know this game but have been paying attention to the hair color, basically when your hair is the red-orange color, you have 1 dash in midair before you have to land on the ground to regain your dash. You also can regain your dash when you go through a screen transition, stuff like that. And the other thing you have to keep in mind is... And then when you have blue, that means you have no dash, midair dash left. The pink hair means 2 midair dashes, so it will allow this final chapter that Rubydragon is about to enter, the Summit, to be based a lot on mid-air movement, which basically almost all of our movement techniques, like our hypers and extendeds and our stuff like that, is ground-based. So this is actually one of the more interesting chapters in a run, because despite the game wanting you to be in the air a lot of time, we're actually going to be trying to spend the least amount of time in the air to either do some sort of hyper dashes or do some wall bounces to move up a lot quicker. We just kind of don't want to be in the air, despite the game wanting us to be in the air, so... it's a very interesting and difficult chapter. And then at the end of it, you have to do this section where you hit these orbs that Battling will throw you upwards, and then at the end of the screen, Battling will throw you upwards into the next section of Summit. Summit is basically a recap level of all the previous chapters. So, for example, you have the 500-meter section, which is very similar to Forsaken City, where it's got the same stuff, and it's got the zipper blocks back. So, Rubydragon's going to be working through that, as Zic3 is working through the Battling fight. Doing pretty good right now. It can be a very tricky fight, so it's really just good to be getting through the screens, because you can spend a lot of time on one screen if you're not careful. So it looks like Zic3 is being very careful and making it through. Meanwhile, Rubydragon close to being finished with the 500-meter section here. Yep, about to be entering 1,000. 1,000 and based off of old site. It's basically going to be going in order. Since the base of the summit was based around Reflection, which was the previous chapter, because haha, progression. After chapter 5, this chapter is going to become its own little unique thing. But we're going to be going in order, so after this is going to be Celestial Resort, Golden Ridge, and then Mirror Temple, yada yada yada. Zic3 now approaching the remix portion of the battle and fight, so very close to being over with the chapter. Just gotta skip this cutscene, and now the blocks are going to start cycling through and through. Rubydragon getting some very nice speed through these steering blocks to make it to the last screen of 1,000. So, 1,500 meters is actually kind of one of the trickier sections, because there's a few screens in particular that are very long. And as I mentioned earlier, very few screens have checkpoints that are mid-screen. So, a lot of these long screens, if you die at any point on them, it's back to the beginning of the screens with you. It looks like Rubydragon, though, has gotten through the majority of the trouble screens. And it looks like Zic3 has gotten through all of the battle and fight, so gonna be joining Rubydragon in the summit very soon. Just has to climb up this section here. So Rubydragon is on the last screen of 1,500. And will we see a door skip? Well, door skip is all the way up in 2,500, so we've still got a little bit of time before we get to know if we'll see a door skip, but hopefully we will. Zic3, though, just now finishing up. Chapter complete. Gonna be moving on to the final chapter of the Any Percent run, which is Summit. Finally getting some berries. You take that secret berry path there because it's a slightly faster path to take than the normal path. But you can get berries. They don't actually do anything, but they do look cool. There's a category for collecting every berries. Rubydragon just did auto-scroller skip there. A very tricky skip. Did kind of a safer setup than what I've ever seen anyone do, but it worked out, so, you know, if the shoe fits. As Zic3 is finishing up the summit base here, going to be moving on to the 500-meter section, as Rubydragon is nearing the final 2 screens of the 2000 section. If Zic could pull it off, he might catch up a bit. Yeah, might catch up by 1 second. That's how much door skip saves. But people like to go for it, so people will go for it. With Rubydragon about to be entering the section that it's in, which is 2500 meter. Alright, gonna ride the red bubble over here. And Zic moving through 500. Making it to the last screen here. So, rather clean progress through the summit so far for both racers. Rubydragon about to be approaching key skip after this screen. There you go. Kind of not getting dash back where you want to get dash back, but making it through. So key skip here, you get to do 2 neutral wall jumps to get up to this key earlier than intended. You're supposed to use a red bubble, but you don't got to do that. And then you retry after you get the key to get to the bottom of the screen faster so that you can unlock the door faster and continue faster. It's faster. Alright, and coming up in 2 screens for Rubydragon, as Zic3 is moving through 1000 meters, is door skip here. After this screen, which I've heard some people recently call threading the needle. That's a nice name, but here's door skip. It saves 1 second to go under these doors instead of hitting the switches to open them. Rubydragon getting it first try, very nice. It's very difficult and saves 1 second, but people really like to go for it for some reason. So, you might see it a lot in this tournament. Rubydragon got it first try, which is pretty nice. It means you actually saved the second instead of losing time on that screen. And now it's going to be going to 3000. So 3000 is kind of like its own little section of the summit. Now you've kind of gone through all the old chapters. Now it's like a new chapter where there's going to be very long screens. And on those very long screens are going to be these flags. These flags act as checkpoints that count down from 30. And then once you reach the end of the countdown, you'll reach the end of the game by reaching the top of the summit. And it also has these winds from Chapter 4 that now move up and down, which can change your gravity. So stuff like your jump height and how quickly you fall. So Rubydragon's going to be working on that end of the game portion here as Zic3 is working through the summit in 1500. So a few sections behind. Still got to go through the Celestial Resort section, the Golden Ridge section, and the Mirror Temple section to make it to where Rubydragon is now. And I guess as the bot is posting it in the link again to our German restream, I'd like to give a shout out to Star Cruncher for doing the German commentary on the German restream today. So if you know someone who probably understands German better than English, definitely tell them to check that channel out. But Rubydragon halfway through the flag counters, they start at 30, and that most recent flag that Rubydragon hit is 13. Meanwhile, Zic heading to the last 2 screens of the 1500 meter section here. Oh, doing that diagonal into checkpoint 12 is always the most scariest thing. The most scariest thing, go me. Alright, so Zic3 about to head into 2000 meters as Rubydragon hits the 10th checkpoint. So the final 10 checkpoints, 2/3 of the way up there. Looking like PB pace for Rubydragon here, assuming speedrun.com is up to date. If speedrun.com is up to date and telling me not lies, then that means Rubydragon's PB is a 37:24. So this might be a PB if Rubydragon has a good ending here, entering the final 5 flags at 36 minutes in on the timer. Zic3 looks like not going for auto-scroller skip. So, taking it safe. Auto-scroller skip can be rather tricky, so honestly, it's not a surprise that some people might not go for it. But, oh well. And Rubydragon making it to flag 1 here. Flag 1 is actually rather simple. You just have to kind of be careful on your way through these last couple of spikes until you reach the top of the mountain, and Rubydragon finishes, winning the race with a time of 36:47, which if speedrun.com is up to date, this was a new PB for Rubydragon here, so very good job. Now just has Zic3 working through the last screen of 2,000, about to enter the 2,500 meter section here. And Zic3, having trouble getting the wave dash here. You want to get a wave dash off of that block because it's faster than setting up an extended dash. And also, it's faster than setting up an extended dash, and also you want to get your dash back for that screen because more dashes is usually more good. We have Zic3 heading up here to go to key skip. First try from both racers on key skip. Very nice. And yeah, as chat's pointing out, including local leaderboard stealer Sexrex, going to the title screen possibly means the PB. You usually want to go to the title screen before or after a PB video to make the life of the leaderboard mods easier, because that way they actually can verify what version of the game you were playing on. And that's important. For some reason I don't understand, but you gotta do it, so do it. Either way, looks like was going for door skip, but did not get that dash there. Is going for it? Is going for it. Alright, so there's one door. And there's the other door, so both racers with door skip. Okay, yeah, at this point I think we've confirmed that speedrun.com was accurate and that 36:47 was a PB for Rubydragon. Okay, there's one version that's not allowed. So that's why we have to show our version, for those wondering. I actually don't know which version is the not allowed one. So, there you go. Either way, Zic3 now making it to the top, going to go through the final 3,000 meter section. Also on PB pace here. I believe Zic3's current PB is actually a different tournament race that I commentated, which was 43:12, I want to say it was. I don't remember off the top of my head, but that sounds right. So with a very good summit, this could also be a PB from Zic3. And Rubydragon confirming, yeah, it's a PB. So yeah, we know at this point it's a PB. Whoa! So yeah, that's a very good PB. Your first 36 is an amazing time to hit. Oh! Okay. Rubydragon's gonna be joining us real soon, hopefully. There we go. Hello there! I heard some microphone sounds.
Yeah, hi.
There we go, hello!
Hi.
Congratulations on the victory and the PB.
Yeah, thanks.
So, I guess since this is a new PB, what parts do you think coming up for your next run that you do with your new splits are going to be easy to compare against, and what's going to be, do you think, really hard to compare against?
Probably Resort was pretty good. Also, my reflection was really good for my standards,
Absolutely.
even though I really like reflection and practice it a lot. This was a very good reflection for me.
Mm-hmm.
But my temple was really bad, so
Yeah, Temple is always kind of
bad.
one of those ones that can happen.
Yeah, it's just really luck-based for me, the Theo section there. I
Yeah,
can't get consistent with those tracks.
Theo's mechanics are really weird with the way your momentum is used there. So it's a section that's really easy to just kind of, oops, I forgot how to do everything for a second.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a really good run. 36 is awesome.
Yes. I think I want to try for 35 at some point, but
That sounds exciting. I'm still trying for sub 40 right now, so 35 is like a fever dream.
Yeah. You get it.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can soon. Summit is a beast, as we're seeing. Zic3 is kind of struggling a little bit on some of these upward wind flags on Summit, because they are very mean.
Yeah.
This level in general, as I literally just said, Summit's a beast, and I think this upward wind section of 3,000 meter is kind of the part that proves that more than anything else.
Yeah.
Making it to the final 10 flags though, so should be finishing fairly soon, hopefully. You're always kind of holding your breath at the end of summits, because as you get to the end, you're seeing people skip some flags, and then you get really scared that they're going to regret skipping the flags. Really close to the end, so this is definitely a good showing from Zic here. And I did just remember something that I kind of want to ask. Did you start running this game by playing on keyboard, or did you originally use controller and then switch?
I always played on keyboard. I only have a Steam controller, so I don't know actually how that would play, but I really don't like controllers anyway for like precision platformers, so
that makes
it's
sense.
just
because I started this game on a controller, and I tried switching to keyboard on a few occasions, and I just cannot do it. Like, I run a lot of games on keyboard with a lot of quick hand movements, and this one is just too much for me.
Okay, yeah. I don't know, I just like keyboard a lot more for these kind of games, especially like pressing 3 keys at once. I don't know how you would even do that with just your thumb, so
Yeah.
I don't really know how to play with controller. But I mean,
Yeah,
it's obviously has a bit of an advantage in this game because of the feathers, so
The feathers, yeah. But
GG.
Yep, now finishing with what looked to be a 44.
Yeah, 44-25 or something.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, nice race, and thanks for commentating, and thanks to Speed
No
Gaming
problem.
for hosting, of course. I
Had
actually
a lot of
PB'd
fun.
in every of my 3 races.
Nice. Well, you still got, like, what, 4 more?
Yeah, I have still 4 more to go.
Well, good luck on your future races then.
Yeah, thanks.
I definitely would recommend, since we have Zic passing on the post-race interview, I might try wrapping this up shortly, because I think something might be on this channel in like 5 minutes, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think another Celeste race, actually.
I think our next Celeste race is in a few hours.
Oh no, Super Metroid or something. No, wait, I don't know.
Our next Celeste race is going to be at 10, so with 3 hours between JJ Plays Games and the Sound Defense on this channel, so... Yeah. Okay, no, we're not going to be having anything on this channel, but might try and just get it, finish up everything, wrap up soon, so definitely would recommend following the racers, because both of them put on an amazing show today. If you want to follow the commentary, you can, but I do also want to shout out on Notes of Commentary. was in chat right there. I want to give a shout out to Star Cruncher for doing the German commentary on our German restream for this race today. So also big thanks to Star for that. And with that, that's everything I have to say. So if you have any final words before we wrap up, you can say them. But that's it for me.
Good race, and thanks for the commentary.
No problem.
Bye-bye.
Oh yeah, catch you at 10 for JJ Plays Games versus the Sound Fence.